Hello, fellow travelers. Here I am once again telling you about some of the wisdom that I've learned in traveling the world. I just like to inspire everyone with the things that I've learned, both through good and bad experiences, so that you can have the best travel experience. If you don't know me, I'm Brooke. I am the owner of I'm Outta Here Travel, which is a small boutique travel agency. I can help you plan trips anywhere to the place of your dreams, and I'll help you get there more easily just because of through my experience I can help you out here. What I'm talking about today is Istanbul cafes. You can see that in the title. I have an apartment in Istanbul. I live a little bit of the year in Istanbul and I love coffee. So I consider myself quite the expert to tell you all about cafes in Istanbul. This one isn't going to be too terribly long, but if you love coffee and you want to know how you can have coffee throughout the world, here's the place to be. So I have my contact information right there at the front. If you want to contact me about how to learn more about Istanbul cafes or cafes in any part of the world, or how to get yourself to any part of the world. So email address, that is my phone number that you can call or text. And also down here, that's my Instagram handle. So there you go. And a little bit more here about who I am. Like I said, I own a property. My husband and I own a property in Istanbul, and we spent quite a bit of time there. And one of the things you may have heard about is Turkish coffee, which is a very special kind of coffee because it's cooked in this little pot, this tiny little pot called a jezve, over the sand traditionally, sometimes over a stove. And it is really thick. It has grounds in the bottom. But if you're not into Turkish coffee, no big deal. There's all sorts of varieties of coffee drinks, whether it's just a drip coffee, just a brewed coffee, or an espresso drink, hot or cold, that you can get over there, whatever you like. And I just want to tell you a little bit about that today. So, like I say here, whether your interest is coffee, cafe culture, or exploring the world, I can help you out with all that. And today I'm going to tell you about some of my favorite cafes in Istanbul and what makes them some of my favorite cafes. So first of all, what's your cafe style? You can have any cafe style that you want in the city of Istanbul. There are some cities in the country of Turkey that are not quite so modern and urban, and you might find more traditional there. But the city of Istanbul, the whole metropolitan area has 16 million people. So you can imagine that there is a type of cafe for everyone. Down here at the bottom, I have kind of a more traditional, that may be more of a tea shop versus a coffee house, but you can get either one there, most likely. You can see that, yes, there's the bench seating up against the wall, but here you have kind of the classic stools and low table. That's kind of a traditional style, and you see the traditional fabrics there too. On the flip side, you see that there are more modern cafes. This just looks like a modern cafe you'd find in any part of the world. We have Turkish tile on the floor, but that's the only thing that really differentiates it from other parts of the world to me. A lot of the Turkish cafes, a lot of the more modern Turkish coffee shops have bookshelves. You can just sit and read. Just like anywhere in the world, you can sit and read and take whatever you want there when you're to work. But also, one of the things I love about Istanbul is there are lots of cafe and bookstore combinations. Back in the day, I know we had a lot of that here in the US. The Barnes and Noble, there's still a little bit of that. Barnes and Noble Borders, if you remember back in that day, but that's still alive and well in Turkey. So I just love that combination. So whatever your style is, you're bound to find something that suits you in Istanbul. Urban vibe, there are some cafes that just feel very urban. Some that I've been in have more of a modern, almost sleek, almost nightclub setting. Some are family owned, some are more chains. And I don't think the chains are necessarily bad. There's one chain I particularly like. I'll get to that in the future, on a future slide. Um, some cafes have food, some cafes have only coffee, some cafes have more extensive food menus like soups and sandwiches and salads. Some cafes have only a few pastries. It kind of goes along with what we have in the US too, because that's kind of the pattern here in the US. We have some cafes with a large menu, some cafes with a small menu, and that is the same there. Istanbul will have a choice just for you. I was talking about brands, and I was saying that brands would come up On a future slide, here we are. So some of us really, really like Starbucks and just really love going to it for the consistency, maybe to earn your stars so you can get awards and things like that. You can find Starbucks everywhere in Istanbul. They're all over the place. But if you want to try a local chain, there are a couple others that I'd recommend instead. Now, these are Turkish chains. They started in Turkey, but there are locations in a couple other parts of the world too. They're expanding throughout Europe and the Arab world. So, but I recommend trying them out in Turkey, kind of in the homeland there. So, local chains, Cafe Dunyasi means coffee world or world of coffee. That is my favorite chain in the area. Large menu, has ice cream at some of the locations. They have chocolate, they have frozen yogurt. It is probably the best frozen yogurt I've had in years. If you are someone who likes frozen yogurt that tastes like yogurt and not like ice cream that has kind of that yogurt tanginess to it, oh, it is amazing there. And Cafe Dinyasi has different sizes of shops. Some of them are bigger. I like going to one of their flagship roasteries. The flagship roastery has probably one of the biggest menus you can, close to the biggest menu. They have the chain makes chocolates as well. So they sell like just chunks of chocolate. They sell truffles and different things like that. Um, some of them have ice cream. Actually, even the smaller ones, as I recall, that I've been to, most of them have ice cream, but maybe a more limited selection. And it is very good ice cream. Have some fruitier that's more like sorbet, and then they have some that are actually creamy like ice cream. One thing about Cafe Dignasi that I learned when I was out there with friends a couple months ago, there is no tea on the menu. It is literally a coffee place. They do not have tea. They do have, if you're a non-coffee drinker, no worries. They have fruit smoothies and fruit juices and things like that, but they do not have tea. So just something to keep in mind. If you wanted tea, that might not be the place to go. And so Espresso Lab is also a chain in that part of the world. They don't have so much of a food menu. They have more drinks. In my opinion, the best thing there, they have all sorts of lemonade mixes and things like that. There's one that I really like. It may be only seasonal for the summer because I've had it there a couple summers in a row. It's a green drink that has a lot of sour plum and lemon in it. I love things that are sour, so it's just spectacular. So other things that you can get there are various coffee drinks, various coffee and espresso drinks, just like a lot of the other places. So those are a couple of chains I recommend you try when you're in the area. So what can you get? Like I said up at the top, you can get Turkish coffee at any of these places. In fact, a little side note here, there are some of the places sell Turkish coffees that have flavors to them, limited flavors. But for instance, Cafe Dignasi, like I was talking about, has one where they mix in some of their chocolate, and it is quite good. It is quite indulgent, and they'll give you a little chocolate on the side to go with it too, which is awesome. It's just like chocolate, chocolate all the time. But if you're not really into Turkish coffee, you can get a lot of these things, like I was saying, that you can get anywhere else in the world. Espresso drinks, I'm starting on the right here. Espresso drinks, you can get latte, cappuccino, flat white, both hot and iced. So I talk about iced drinks there. You can get iced coffees, iced lattes, things like that. And again, if you're not into coffee, there are typically other non-coffee iced drinks that you can get. Lots of these places have house-made lemonade, especially if you see house-made mint lemonade. It usually has actual mint in there and not just a syrup. That's spectacular. Drip coffee you can find pretty much anywhere as well, but I have to say, I think espresso drinks are more common in the Istanbul area than drip coffee. Frozen drinks, coffee, non-coffee frozen drinks, just the whole range of things are things you can get there. And best neighborhoods, of course, this is in my opinion for cafes. Best neighborhoods to find cafes. Usually if you're going to Istanbul, if you're a tourist in Istanbul, you're going for the historic district and not much else around, especially if you only have 2 or 3 days there. But I recommend, if you can, to go a little bit further afield into some of these other neighborhoods. Again, this is a dynamic list, like I say, especially with the economy changing so rapidly in the country. Things might change where some of them might go downhill and some of them might uptick a little bit too. But this is What I love, Cihangir, that's a neighborhood right next to where my apartment is, and Cihangir is not too far from touristy areas like Galata Tower and Istiklal Street. So you can easily get to that neighborhood if you were visiting some of those areas when you're in Istanbul. It's on the European side of the country, European side of the city rather, and it's a little bit hipster. There is some antique store there, and these qualities are often reflected in the coffee shops too. So I don't know, I just like rotating around because all of them are good for different reasons, right? One thing I mentioned when I talked about that first neighborhood, Cihangir, is that it was on the European side of the city. If you're not aware of this, the city of Istanbul is split into two continents by the Bosphorus Strait going down the center. There's the European side, there's the Asian side, and it really is more a nominal thing in name only. There are some slight differences between the neighborhoods, but you wouldn't think, oh, I'm in Europe, oh, I'm in Asia when you go to the two sides. That's just the way it is. So that was the first on the list. Second on my list is a neighborhood called Beşiktaş. It is one of my favorite neighborhoods in the whole of the city. It is mostly their nightlife and bar neighborhood. I mean, I'm not hugely into bars or nightlife, but I like it for other reasons. It's very locals feeling. It has a lot of little cafes, some cafes that may only have two or three tables. So that really gives them a small, cozy feeling. There are lots of twisty, turny cobblestone streets. It's one of the older neighborhoods in the city. So that also makes it interesting. Beşiktaş is also on the European side. Another one on the European side that is more toward the business districts is called Nişantaşı, and they have a lot of clothing stores. It's the fashion area. It's a little bit more upscale, a little bit more modern, so that has that feeling too. This also is not too far from the touristy areas that I was mentioning before. You may have to take a metro line to get there, but it's super easy to do that. So I wouldn't worry about that. Again, it's a nice little area to check out. The other two things in my list are places on the Asian side, neighborhoods on the Asian side of Istanbul. And don't fret, don't worry. In fact, it's easy to get to the Asian side. You can go to one of a number of ferry terminals on the European side, hop on a ferry, pay about $1 per person to take the ferry over to the other side. It's really pleasant being on the water. You'll see all the other boats around. It takes 15 to 20 minutes, depending on which neighborhood you're coming from and going to get to the other side. You get to explore a whole new world. So anyway, these on the bottom, Moda, the two on the bottom of the list, Moda is a neighborhood that is popular with expats, popular with tourists who want quieter places to stay, which is great. It's a quieter place to stay. There's a little bit more green space over there. The downside of it is it takes you some time to get to the tourist locations because most of the tourist locations are on the European side. There are trade-offs with everything, right? So Moda, I think, has more of a European feeling to it, and you might get that sense as well. It has some of my favorite cafes out there, actually. And then there's another neighborhood that's becoming more popular recently called Kuzguncuk, and it is on the Asian side as well. You take one of the ferries, you take a bus about 10 minutes up along the coastline, and this has lots of colorful buildings just crammed in next to each other. It's kind of tightly packed and cute like that on tree-lined streets. It's very hilly. This is a neighborhood that's become popular more recently. So anyway, you kind of get that there's a difference in feel and vibe between all of these places. Which one's the best for you? I can't tell you. I just say try a bunch of them and see what suits your vibe for the day. Couple of pictures from cafes that I love going to. The one on the left, you can see here that cafes aren't all about coffee. Like I was saying, there's some non-coffee drinks at the cafes. This is a cafe in this picture that I have not mentioned at all otherwise. It's a picture from a cafe called Midpoint, which is on top of a hill, so you get to have a nice view over the Bosphorus. This drink I have here is one that I really like. It's very refreshing. It's kind of a slushy drink with basil and lime and lemon and cucumber. A lot of these cafes, especially the fancier ones that have a more extensive menu, will have really good mocktails. So that's what I like to have during the summer. This is really refreshing when it's hot outside, and I could probably go through 4 or 5 of them in one time there, I hate to say. So that's one thing. The one in the middle is a coffee shop in the Beşiktaş area. It's a small division of the Beşiktaş area called Blum. And one of the things I love here, first of all, It's had the same, I don't know if it's manager or owner, but the same guy at the counter for the number of years I've been going there. I've been going there to this cafe since 2021, and it's the same guy there all the time. So the consistency, he recognizes me, is nice. Another thing that they have here is a cappuccino made with pistachio paste. They call it the pistachino, and it is amazingly good. It's sweet because pistachio paste has sugar in it, but they take the cup for the cappuccino and put a little blob of the paste in the bottom so that it mixes around, and then they line the rim of the pistachio paste. Need I say more? It's just spectacular. And then this cafe over on the far right side is one that happens to be at the bottom of the hill from my Istanbul apartment. It's called Roy's Coffee House, and you can see that sometimes English is not their most fluent or first language, like coffee connect us, but still the vibe is cool. It's more modern in there. One of the things I love about that place is that their drinks are very good, but they're extremely reasonably priced. They're some of the best priced espresso drinks in the whole area around where I live there. And another thing I love about that place in the summer is their air conditioning game is on point. It's spectacular. So it's a great place to go in and just cool down and de-sweat and have something enjoyable before you move on to your next thing. Just a list of my favorite cafes. And again, this list is dynamic, right? Because these are places that I have actually loved for quite some time. But dare I say this, there are some cafes that a year ago, 2 years ago, I would have put on my favorites list, and things change, right? Sometimes they aren't quite the same. The good news is whenever I go to Istanbul, I keep discovering new cafes that I really like. There's an endless supply of cafes. I often have said that even if I spent 10 years there nonstop going to a cafe every day, I still wouldn't see all the cafes in this city because it's a huge city, right? Anyway, going through this list and giving you an idea of a little bit of the vibe in each one. Here's Moda. Moda is that one of the places on the Asian side of the city. Walter's Coffee Roastery. If you're familiar with the show Breaking Bad, it has a Breaking Bad theme. If you're not familiar with the show Breaking Bad, no worries. It has a chemistry theme. And so Walter's Coffee Roastery has a menu on the wall that is like the periodic table of elements. It has just the abbreviations like the atomic symbols for the different drinks, has the price in the corner, like you would have the atomic number on the periodic table. So it's fun like that. They serve many of their drinks in chemistry glassware shaped containers like the flasks and the beakers and things like that. It's just fun. It just has that underlying theme. I think it's fun. And they do have some very, very good drinks and food. Second one on the list, I mentioned Cafe Dinyasi before, and the coffee world. Kabatash is one that I'm very familiar with. It's a neighborhood near my apartment, and it's also one of their flagship stores. That's the one that has the roastery in it. Has full suite of food. It has coffee, it has ice cream, it doesn't have tea. It has coffee, ice cream, froyo, chocolates, and you can order pretty much anything you want there. It has an upstairs and a downstairs seating area. There's just a lot of comfortable seating there. The staff there is wonderful. So that's one that I would recommend going to if you can. Roy's Coffee was that one that I had at the end of the last slide. That's Let Coffee Connect Us that I was talking about. Tom Tom is the neighborhood where my apartment is. It's part of the Beyoğlu neighborhood on the larger Beyoğlu district. Tom Tom is a smaller neighborhood there. So Roy's Coffee, like I said, has some of the more affordable espresso drinks in the area, but they're also still very, very good. So I recommend that, and the staff is wonderful too. Next point, Valonia in Beşiktaş. I mentioned Beşiktaş earlier. Valonia, I kick myself about Valonia because I've been going to Istanbul on a regular basis for a number of years. But Valonia was always one of those cafes I walked by, looked in, and it looked fancy. So the seating looked fancy, the wall hangings, all just the whole decor looked fancy. And I thought, oh, that's out of my price range. But one day I actually went in. And believe it or not, guess what? It wasn't out of my price range. It was pretty much in the same price range as the other cafes. Not only that, they're known not only for the coffee, but for their chocolates. They have all sorts of chocolate desserts. They have a chocolate counter. They sell boxes of chocolate you can take out. So if you are into mochas, the espresso drink mocha, they will actually put some of their chocolate melted into that. It is super good. I'm not a big mocha person, but I'll get a couple of mochas when I'm there because it just is so good with their chocolate. And again, it has a really, really pleasant vibe. That's another place that has very good air conditioning if you're there during a hot time, and highly recommended. A little bit off the beaten path. It's not right on the waterfront. You have to go in a little bit, but not too far. And then Blum was the one I mentioned just a little bit ago. Akka Retler is a subcategory. It's a sub neighborhood in Besiktas. It's one of the more like old school, classy type areas in terms of their architecture and such. But again, this is the one that had the pistachio drink that I really love, and I just love the neighborhood in general and the friendly vibe there. Anyway, those are some of my favorite cafes that I wanted to share with you. You may or may not agree with me when you go there and see them, but I think that all of them are worth a try. So again, just a couple of pictures just to finish this off of the various cafes. Down here, Cafe Dignasi. There are Cafe Dignasis, like I said, all around the country and in other parts of the world too now. Here, this one has outdoor seating with umbrellas. Some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. Another cafe here, you can see the nice comfortable seating that they have. They have most of the bigger cafes will have everything coffee you could ask for. Up here we have actually a traditional Turkish coffee you can see being poured into. It's pretty much just a little demi-tasse cup, like the same size you might use for a shot of espresso, but it is different from espresso. It's actually Turkish coffee. Over to the right here, you see a latte with latte art on the top, right? Or maybe it's a cappuccino with latte art. In any case, you have all sorts of varieties of things that you can get. Ooh, I forgot that I put this in here. This is actually the menu you can see for Walter's Coffee Roastery that looks, like I said, like the periodic table. You have flat white, mocha, affogato, those just resembling the periodic table. And I think it's just a fun atmosphere. And then lastly, I thought this was interesting. This is a cafe that I went to just early September of this year. It was not really a cafe that most people would go to. It was a little bit farther out when we were exploring a neighborhood farther out in the city of Istanbul, but I just thought the decor was very nice. They had these clouds that cast a shadow because they were hanging in the front, and we also had some very good coffee and non-coffee drinks there. So that just about wraps up what I have to say about cafes. You can see I have a couple more pictures here. You have a Turkish coffee that is complete. You have a Turkish coffee that is being made, and also with mini Turkish coffees that give you a little treat on the side. Like I said, traditionally what they do is they give you Turkish delight. That's kind of the fruity gummy candy. So most places traditionally will give you that. There's some more modern places, like I said, Cafe Dignasi will put a chocolate on the side. Some places will give you a little cookie to put on the side. So it really depends on the place. Like I said, Istanbul is my second home, literally. I own a property there. I like going and visiting there. So I would love to help you figure out how you can get to Istanbul and enjoy some of these cafes on your own, right? Or cafes anywhere, Istanbul, any part of the world. So like I said, I have this travel business. I like getting people to the places of their dreams. I like helping people explore new places. And there are a couple ways that you can use my services. So I've listed kind of the two extremes here. There's also in between. So if you plan your itinerary, if you want to do a lot of the planning on your own, but you just need me to give you advice on hotels, that's pretty straightforward. I don't take that much time to do that. I just do a little bit of research, and I don't charge you for that. So to be completely transparent, these hotels pay me a commission at no extra charge to you. So if you're wondering, oh, well, then what's in it for her? The hotels actually give something back to me that way, but it's at no extra charge to you. Depending on the quality and caliber of hotel, some of the fancier hotels, I can get you extra perks like free breakfast, late checkout, early check-in, spa credits, things like that. So that's one end of the spectrum. At the other end of the spectrum, I can take care of every single trip detail for you, like literally leaving your house to coming back to your house. So including all of your airport transportation on both ends. I can do every single part of that. If you hate trip planning, I can help you out. Like I say, for a planning fee, I can plan every single detail, your flights, whatever tours you might want to might have, your hotels, any of your activities. Of course, for that, because it does take some of my time, I do charge a planning fee. And again, there's all sorts of variation in between. You might ask me to book your hotels and also do a little bit of research on transportation. If that's the case, I will charge a little bit of a planning fee for that, but not such a big planning fee as if I did the whole thing. So you kind of hopefully get the idea there. For any customer, I will give you 30 minutes of trip planning free. And so I don't specify this here, but this goes for every single trip. So at the start of every single trip, I will give you a free 30 minutes just so you get a sense of, do my services make sense for you in this particular trip? So if you're planning a trip with me right now, I'll give you 30 minutes before I start charging anything if we were doing the more extensive planning. And if you finished that trip, hopefully had a great time, came back, said you loved it, and then you said, hey, Brooke, next year I want to plan another trip with you. That next trip will also get a free 30 minutes in the beginning. Again, that just gives us a sense of talking together to give us an idea of if this is the right thing working together. I don't want to charge you if all of a sudden things don't work out. So that about wraps it up. Thank you for listening to this talk about coffee. I hope I have inspired you to get up and go get a cup of coffee right now. And I hope I've inspired you to try other places in the world. So once again, I'm Brooke with I'm Outta Here Travel, and I would love to help you see more of the world. Thank you. Have a good one.